discovering who you are for the audience that you're trying to get in front of. And in essence, it's a branding conversation. But the question is, what element of this branding conversation should we be having together? Welcome to another episode of Tactical Tuesday. My name's Russell Pearson, and I've got a question for you. Are you deaf, dumb, and blind? I'm not trying to actually give you a hard time, but the question actually remains, are your clients not hearing what you're saying? Are they not seeing who and where you are? And are you mute in the way that you're going about communicating with people? That is the subject for today's discussion, where we're really talking about who are you for whom, or who are you for who. I always like that instead, but who are you for whom? Matthew, great to see you here. And for anyone who's not live, you can go and find us live on the Future Proof Business Group here on Facebook. We've recorded this, and you might see this somewhere else. If you're watching it in replay, put hashtag replay. If you're watching it live, please comment live. I would love to have discussions with you. Now, today's topic is really about discovering who you are for the audience that you're trying to get in front of. And in essence, it's a branding conversation. But the question is, what element of this branding conversation should we be having together? I'm very well, Matthew. Thank you for asking. There are three reasons why people need to improve in the branding space. Number one is that their message is deaf, dumb, and blind, and it's not getting through to the people that it should be. The other problem is that people don't know who they are. They don't know who they should be. They have no real sense of identity. They don't have a self-image, either for themselves as a personal brand or for their business as the business brand. And the final one is that the things that they're saying and doing are not being shared with others because they're lacking that remarkability. People are not remembering them. And so you get this sort of like brand amnesia. People are not remembering about you. And the worst case of not remembering about you is when you've been speaking to someone for ages, let's say, and you know them very well. You might even be very close friends. And then something comes up where your services would be ideal to help them solve their problem. And they don't ask you, they go to Google and they start Googling for the answer, and they find some other consultant and they ended up working with them, and then they tell you about how they're working with that consultant, and you're like, why didn't you ask me? That happens a lot. And so that's this unremarkable brand piece where people are not remembering you when they should. They're not creating triggers in their mind to go, oh, now is the time to actually contact Russell because I have some of these problems. So whether it's you're not sure who you are as a brand, whether it's you or your business, you're not getting cut through. There's too much noise out there, and your message is not landing with the right people, or whether people are not remembering you when they need you or sharing you at the right time. G'day, Di. Good to see you on the live as well. If any of those three things is happening, then you need to make a shift, because typically when we're working with individuals, they're in that space and they want to go to a different place. And that different place is they've got a very clear identity around their brand. Who are they and who are they showing up for who? They're also cutting through now. They're actually getting their messages through to the right people who are resonating with them and responding. All right, they're actually responding to the messages that are getting through. And finally, the people who are getting those messages are finding them to be remarkable. They're actually not only remembering them, but they're sharing them with others. Remarkable is an interesting word. If you look at the way remarkable is broken up, it's the ability to remark about another thing. So they're going to take your brand, which is a mark, and they're going to take it and they're going to remark it on the brain of someone else. Good to see you, Jacinta. And so if you're in a space where your brand, your messages is not getting the cut through, there's deaf, dumb, and blind going on. People are not remembering to actually refer you or to use you at the right time. If you're finding that you don't really have the right sense of identity, if any of those three is actually coming up, then you might be interested in the workshop that we're running next month. It's not just a single workshop. I'm actually going to be working with people, only 9 people, through the month to get them 100% not just clear, but having a brand that's actively working with the right people and actually speaking to them and getting the right response. So if you're interested in that, just put interested in the chat. I'll follow up with you. There's a handful of people that I'm doing it with, and you might be in your business at the right time to go, you know what, right now, I need to be getting better cut through with my brand. I need to be actually getting more exposure, or I'm finding that I'm doing too many things, or I'm running in too many different directions. I'm not sure about who I am and who I am for who. So today's conversation is really about, all right, there are different roles that you have in your life. Now, whether that's a mother or a sister or a daughter or a father, a son or a brother, there are so many different roles that you play that in just that space. You've got employer, you've got employee, there are the advisors, there are the service providers. There's the technical role that you play, whether you're bookkeeper or accountant, carpenter. There's technical elements to that thing that you do. So there's all these different roles. But what is the role you're playing with the specific audience, and have they connected that role in their brain? And a large part of the work that I do around this space is archetypal, which is an archetype. If you look at Carl Jung's work, it's basically just a way of describing a thing that is a consistent way of describing a thing. And so we look at personas, we look at who people are, we look at the roles that people play in people's lives, and then we can start to understand what role do we want to play and what role we are actually playing for people. So in the past, and you may have experienced this before, I would come into a business that was sick. It wasn't working. There was some form of cancer or trauma or something that had actually happened in the business. Now, I'm not talking about the medical. I'm talking about the metaphorical cancer that was running through the business, that was just always going to be poisoning it, adding toxins to the business, so it could never really stand on its feet very well. And so with those businesses, they were a patient and I was a healer, or I was a medical professional that had to come in and diagnose what the problem was and then help them fix it. And so in the helping them fix that, the people who are in that space really couldn't look after themselves. So rather than being even a healer who is proactively promoting health, I ended up having to become a carer, which is to take care of people. And it was a trap I fell into, because I would start looking after people, and when I started looking after them, instead of enabling them to do it themselves, I actually disabled them and they became reliant on me. And so it was important for me to make that shift mentally so that I was not in that frame when I was actually looking to work with people. So I couldn't work with people when they were sick, or if I did, I needed to step back and be the doctor who diagnoses and then triages them to some specialist who can help them with their specific issue. So there is the business that's sick. That's an example of a client. There's the business that is weak, can't look after itself. It needs to be protected. In those scenarios, I would usually I used to call it actually bullying the bullies. Like I would bully their competition because they weren't able to do it themselves. And again, that's another trap I fell into. So because instead of being a warrior who was actually fighting on their side, I was having to do stuff because they were unable to do it. So I was a bit of a slave or a servant in that model. And so I've stepped back from that to understand that if I'm going to enable people, if I'm going to help people to look after themselves, that I am going to help them become what they need within the business. So if the business is sick, my role is to guide them to become the healer for their business. So what is it your job to become for your clients? If you're coming in and doing all the work for them, are you enabling or potentially disabling their ability to grow in the future? If you're creating a key role within their organization, if you were to be taken away, would the organization fail? And if you were taken away and the organization did fail, then I would suggest that you are actually disabling them. Yeah, you're becoming a leg to help them actually move along. You take away the leg, they fall over, right? So who are you being in an organization? So I now understand that I can't actually change people. I can't even really help people do the thing. All I can do is guide them to learn the steps that they need to take, and then to take the steps they need to take so they can do it themselves, so they can really build up the muscle to help them run their business the way it needs to be run. So for some people, I'm helping them become the healer so that they can heal their business. For others, I'm helping them become the warrior so they can go out and hunt and kill the thing that they need to bring back to have the prize to win in business. They need to become they have that strength of the warrior to be able to actually go and do that. And that's usually businesses that need to become better business development businesses. But then you've got other businesses as well where they don't know what they need to be doing. There's some knowledge gaps, okay? So I have to be the teacher to help them become the student. But after that, they need to be able to actually teach their employees. They need to be able to teach their teams to do what they need to do. Yeah. And so you may be a teacher for your clients, but in being a teacher for your clients, you can't do the work for them. You know, they need to write their own exams. They have to write their own tests. You can enable them. You can give them the knowledge and the recall, the ability to remember things at the right time. But what role are you playing for those clients? And then finally, there's these other clients who really need to refresh or create. And it's usually businesses that got a little bit stale. That's certainly an area where I play a lot, and that's I need to become the magician. I'm like, let's take all these elements, and a scientist is very much like this too. Take all these different elements and bring them together and create something new. That's a magical experience. It's transformational. And so what role do I need to play for the different clients is really my question when I come and engage and actually have a conversation with a prospect, with a new client opportunity. I really need to see, if number one, this is something that I should be working on. Two, is there a drive to create that change? And do they want me to do it for them or help their business learn to stand on its own 2 feet so it can do it itself? And really that's the focus of the work that I do. But for you, what is it for you? What role do you play with your clients? It's funny because you can actually look at the other archetypes too, of like the father, the mother, the child, the brother, the sister. Those come into the personal relationships that we have. Yeah, we might have a brother-sister relationship with a friend. Yeah. Because we are peers, but in a playful way where we're not the adults in the scenario. So you got to look at those different things and say, what am I currently and what do I want to be? And we can shift those ideas very, very easily. And that's one of the things I'm going to actually show you in the branding conversation, is actually how to take where you are and look at where you want to be and make the shifts, make the changes for yourself, but also to your brand, so that you're starting to attract people, not at the way you are currently attracting them, but at the level that you want to be attracting them. Because if you're attracting people who want you to work for them, you're the employee. If you're attracting people who want you to do stuff with them or do projects for them, you're the delivery person, you're the service provider. If people are coming for your advice and they want to especially know about your advice, even outside of your expertise, you're the advisor. And so understanding what level you're coming in at, who are you being for these individuals? G'day, Renee. That's part of the conversation that we're going to be having in that forum next month. But I'm looking to having that conversation with each and every one of you. So the question for today, what role are you playing with the majority of clients? What role do you want to be playing with your clients? It's a branding piece, it's an identity piece, and it's actually fairly straightforward to transform when you're ready to do the work. Until next time, my name's Russell Pearson. Go check out my podcast, Your Consulting Business Podcast. You'll be able to find that by typing it in. You'll also see it over on YouTube. We've got a whole bunch of new subscribers over there on YouTube. If you want to follow the videos that I'm doing, just like Tactical Tuesday, just like the podcast that we do every week, I would encourage you to go over there, subscribe, hit the bell, do all those things that YouTube tells you to do so that you get notified when the next video comes live. Until next time, stay passionate, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.